Legacy of Destruction has given us some amazing cards, but the most slept on deck to get new support is Yubel. What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Coffee, where today I'm going to be going over my current Yubel deck list. The new cards this deck received are completely custom, plus there's even more cards on the horizon. We're going to go through the card by card. I'll show you guys exactly what I'm playing and why I'm playing it, but also make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to be showcasing some of the 1 and 2 card combos this deck can do. But first, before we hop into all that, go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. That way you guys can sit down and tune in. So, Yubel has a lot of things going for it. Not only does this deck essentially have a Baron to floor, but this deck can be super annoying to play against, not only because it can super poly your whole field away, but it can also OTK out of nowhere with all the ways it can burn your life points. But now hopping straight into it for the Yubel monsters, first we're playing 3 copies of Spirit of Yubel. This is the spell or trap searcher for the deck. Whenever it's special summoned, you can either add or set a spell or trap that mentions Yubel from your deck. We have a bunch of ways to special summon it, but it can also summon itself from the hand when your opponent declares an attack. Just like the other Yubels, it can't be destroyed by battle and you'll take no battle damage. At times, this even feels like a battle fader. It's so good against the new Tenpai deck. Speaking of Tenpai, this deck has a really solid matchup against it. The deck does have some technical outs that can help them in this matchup, but if you haven't already, make sure you go check out my most recent Tenpai video where I go over some of the options this deck has. Another thing to note about the Spirit of Yubel is whenever it's destroyed, it can float into another Yubel, which is basically what the whole deck is revolved around. It wouldn't be a Yubel deck without the OG Yubel, and now with the new support, I am playing 2. Now thanks to Nightmare Throne, this deck is so much more consistent and can spam the field with so many different bodies, making the new rank 10 is so easy. So by playing 2, now you don't have to feel bad if you have one stuck under your Exceed as a material. But for the last boss monster Yubel card we're playing, of course, it's the Terror Incarnate. You need it not only to float into with Yubel, but Nightmare Throne will special summon it for free all the time, and we'll go over that in the combo portion of the video. We're also running 3 copies of Samsara D Lotus. This contributes itself to special summon Yubel from the deck. This is the best way to special summon Spirit and allow yourself to search any of the spells and traps you need. It also has the graveyard effect where at the end of the turn it comes back if you have Yubel on the field, which is really nice because Yubel does have to tribute something at the end phase if you do have it on the board. But if you have a different monster you can tribute, then the Samsara D Lotus does become an interruption. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can tribute this card and make the effect become destroy a Yubel monster. This is just another layer that this deck has for interruptions, and I really love it in this deck. But now for one of the new cards, 3 of the Grave Squirmer. I am so shocked to see the OCG constantly playing 2 of this. Maybe it's because Max C is in the format, but this card has everything going for it. Not only is it a free extender when you have a Fiend on the field, but you have the option to destroy a Yubel card or a card that mentions it after you summon this. Obviously, this is cool to help you proc off those Yubel effects, but it's also a cool way to try to dodge some of your opponent's interactions. It acts very similar to something like Shavara. Again, the destruction is optional. You don't have to destroy anything, but the thing that puts this card way over the top is while it's in the grave, you can banish it and special summon any Fiend with 0 attack and 0 defense from your grave. Like I said, some custom support. It's an extender, an additional body, plus potentially dodging some of your opponent's card effects. And speaking of a pseudo Shavara, I am actually opting to run the 1 copy of Shavara in this deck. We're running a small Unchained package, and we're not going the Shayama route anymore. I personally think Shavara is the way to go. I've seen some players opt to not even play a trap. That's how much they really love this card. And I really think that's what's so great about this deck is there's so many options in the way you want your end board to look. We'll go over which trap card I decided to pick later, but the last monster in this deck is 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. On normal summon, you can grab the Opening of the Spirit Gates, which when you activate that spell can grab you a second Dark Beckoning Beast. This is really cool because the Beckoning Beast also gives you an extra normal summon for any Fiend with 0 attack and defense. You have a lot of options with what you can do with this, but my favorite part about this package is Opening of the Spirit Gates also acts like a monster reborn, but we'll talk about that later. Plus, not to mention, it's a Fiend with 0 attack and 0 defense, so It is searchable with the field spell, but that's it for the monsters. Now let's talk about the spells. We have a couple of 1-ups, first being Called by the Grave, just to hit some hand traps. Droll can be a little awkward sometimes, Ash as well. But in addition, we have a 1-for-1 for consistency. I am not running Dimensional Shifter. The card is insanely powerful, and I keep debating on whether or not I want to add it back in, but now with all the crazy combos this deck can do, Shifter does weaken your end board. But the last 1-up is the Terraforming, of course, to search our new field spell. 3 copies of Nightmare Throne. This card does so much for the deck. On activation, you can add any fiend with 0 attack and defense from your deck to your hand, or you have the option to destroy it as well. This is so versatile for the deck. Also, if ever a Yubel leaves the field because of a card effect, you can then add a Yubel that's 1 level higher or lower from your deck, and then you have the option to summon it to the field, ignoring the summoning conditions. This essentially gets you a free body in the process of doing your combo, which is so great for this deck. After that, we're also playing 3 Nightmare Pain, another searcher for the deck, and the primary card you search off of your Spirit of Yubel. But what Nightmare Pain can do is destroy a dark monster on your field or in your hand if you want to save the bodies. This allows you to add any Yubel or card that mentions it, but the craziest part about this card that everybody forgets to read is while you control a Yubel monster, your opponent must attack with all their monsters to Yubel, and any battle damage you would take is inflicted to your opponent instead. I don't know how often my opponent has forgotten about this, and then they have to start crashing their field into my Yubel, and they basically defeat themselves in the process. A lot of players are getting wise to what this deck can do, but don't worry, you can use this effect offensively as well, crashing your monsters into your opponent's board. This can do some serious damage out of nowhere, and it's something your opponent has to respect when playing against this deck. And I mentioned it before, I'm only playing 2 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. This is what adds the Dark Beckoning Beast from deck to hand. I'd much rather draw the monster than draw the spell, but this card is so good for the deck. Not only can you discard any card to special summon one of your fiends back from the grave with 0 attack and 0 defense, but also if you control a level 10 monster, you can add one of your continuous spell cards from the grave back to hand, making it so you can recycle more copies of Opening or even get your Nightmare Pains back. This makes the deck so consistent, and on top of that, we're playing 3 copies of Prosperity. In time, I could see myself cutting this card. The deck is already super consistent as is now. Now, not only does Prosperity help us get into our engine, but it also helps us dig for our board breakers. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not running any hand traps because I feel like this deck is actually really good at playing into boards. I'm opting to run 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents, just a great card not only going first, but of course all these Fire King decks with Appaloosas on the field are just begging to have them stolen. In addition, I'm running 3 copies of Super Polymerization, so strong in this deck specifically. There might be some matchups that the card is bad, but the fact that we play Yubel makes it to where it doesn't care what deck we're playing against, it will always be live. We're also playing 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, another board breaker, and the best part about these cards is they are quick plays, so these 6 you can set face down if you're going first as well. But the last cards in the deck is one eternal favorite, the searchable Super Poly in the deck. It also has the ability to special summon a Yubel from your grave or banishment, which is really awesome, but really we like using it for the Super Poly effect. But I'm actually opting to go with Chamber. I personally like putting my Unchained cards in the grave, hiding all my interactions and disruptions as much as possible, waiting for my opponent to play into the board. But again, the sky's the limit, and you have a bunch of different options for this deck, but we'll showcase why I'm playing these in the combo portion. Now, before we hop into the extra deck, I just wanted to showcase these amazing SP Little Knight sleeves from Imperium Duelist. I've shown them off on the channel a few times. They really are some of my favorite sleeves that Imperium has made recently. They have a wide variety of products to choose from, so make sure you guys go check out the link down below to their website. Plus, if you use my code COFFEE10 at checkout, it'll save you 10% off your purchase, plus a portion comes back to the channel, and it helps me make content for you. But now, hopping into the extra deck, I am still currently running 2 copies of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. The main reason you play this is it requires 1 Yubel and 1 plus effect monster. These effect monsters can be from anywhere on the field, so if your opponent has a full board, just getting a Yubel on the field means you can super poly away everything your opponent has. On summon, this will also burn your opponent for 500 for each material used to make it. It also has all the usual Yubel effects, no battle damage, can't be destroyed by battle, but the crazy thing about this card is after the damage step when this card battles, not only will you burn your opponent for the attack points of that monster, but you get to banish that monster after as well. This card is so amazing in this deck. We're not always going to have Yubel on the field, so we also have the Mud Dragon and we have the Garura as well, making the Super Poly that much more flexible. I really can't wait until we get the new fusion for this deck, but one of the bombs we've just recently received is the Varudras, the final bringer of the End of Times. This first card is, again, completely custom. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can detach a material to negate the activation of the card, and then if you do, you can destroy any card on the field. Plus, at the start of damage step, if this card attacks while it has a material, you can destroy any other card on the field. In addition, if ever this card is destroyed, you guessed it, you can destroy another card on the field. This card is completely custom. But in addition, I'm also running another rank 10. We have the Gustav Max. For some reason, a lot of people think that if they just don't put a monster on the field, then our 0 attack point monsters can't attack them for game. So by simply putting 2 level 10s on the field, now you can burn them for 2k and then slap the Juggernaut on top and make its attack 6,000, and well, that's exactly 8,000 damage. It doesn't always come up because people are getting wise to what this deck can do, but still, there's a lot of times you can crash your monsters into your opponent's field, burn them for most of their life points, and then main phase 2, make the Gustav Max to clean up the game. The last Exceed I'm playing is the Typhon, obviously super versatile for any deck in the meta right now. And another thing to note is I'm not running the Djinn Buster. This is just a free rank 2 that you can make with your Beckoning Beasts. This card helps you play around Nibiru, and it can even stop other hand traps along the way. But instead, I do a different line that uses Appaloosa, which, spoilers, I am playing. But moving on to the links, we have the Unchained package. We have 1 Anguish, 1 Soul of Rage, and 1 Yama. I think this is all you need. Maybe you could play a second Yama, but I'm also playing a Muckraker to just generically bring back any of my fiends. This little package opens up so much for your combo lines, and we're about to go over that in a sec. But in addition, we also have SP Little Knight to tag into with our Soul of Rage, or just generically making this deck. I also have the Dark Charmer, again, another way to link climb, not only helping you make SP when playing into a board, but also putting up an Appaloosa as you're building your board as well. This card is so versatile, and for that reason, I found making room for the dark is super essential. Again, there's so many ways to do the combos in this deck, and I'm not saying Appaloosa is something that you have to do, but I found I've personally liked the lines that it offers. But speaking of all the different lines, let's go over some of the basic combos that this deck can do. Alright, so for the first combo, I just want to showcase the power of Nightmare Throne. This is going to be a 1-card combo, and we're going to show the 2-card combo as well. This card adds so much to the deck. So starting things off, of course, we're going to be activating Nightmare Throne, and we're going to use the effect to search a fiend with 0 attack and defense. Of course, we're going to grab the Lotus, and we can summon the Lotus and use its effect to then summon a Yubel from deck. Spirit of Yubel hits the field, and we'll use its effect to set Nightmare Pain. On resolution, we'll activate it right away and destroy the Yubel on field to add Grave Squirmer to hand. Now as Chainlink 1, our Yubel will activate, but the cool thing is now our field spell will activate as Chainlink 2. Now we can add Terror Incarnate to our hand and then special summon it to the field, ignoring its summoning conditions. And then of course, Spirit of Yubel resolves and brings the original Yubel from the deck. Now we have nothing but fiends, so we can summon this Grave Squirmer to the field, and then we can take these 2 bodies and link them off, and this is where we start getting our Unchained cards going. Yama's effect will activate, we'll add Sharvara to hand, but then one thing I like to do after that is I'll go ahead and link these 2 bodies off. Soul of Rage will hit the field, and then on resolution, I'm going to go ahead and activate the Grave Squirmer in the grave and bring Spirit of Yubel back from the graveyard to the field. I know this looks a little weird, but now we can use Sharvara destroying this Yubel and summoning it to the field. Now Spirit of Yubel will activate to summon another Yubel, but also we can activate this Yama, banish it, targeting the Spirit of Yubel that just got destroyed. Spirit hits the field, and now we can bring out the second copy of Yubel from the deck. And right now we are currently locked into fiends, but that's okay because we can link these 2 off, go into our Muckraker, and then our Sharvara activates to go ahead and grab us that trap. Again, I really like this line because it hides all the Unchained stuff in the grave. But then after that, before we use the Muckraker's effect, it will lock us into fiends for the rest of the turn. So we'll take these 2 level 10s and we'll make the new Baron de Fleur. This card is so crazy, and I can't believe this deck has access to it. And now we're in the clear. We can activate that Muckraker. We can discard any card we want, and now we can bring back the original Yubel. This does technically play into Super Poly, so depending on the matchup and how the format plays out, if Super Poly winds up being popular, then maybe you want to alter this line. Now in the end phase, we can use that Lotus and bring itself back from the grave, and we get to leave it on the field now because we have an extra body for Yubel to send to the grave. But in total, we have the Omni Negate plus a pop, and again, it destroys more cards if it's destroyed. The Lotus is essentially a monster negate by changing the monster effect to destroy a Yubel. And of course, at any time, you can flip the trap up, bring back Soul of Rage, and then of course, use that effect to link with one of your opponent's monsters and go into SP to banish another card. And then of course, SP can banish a card as well. All this for just 1 card is really crazy. And again, there's a bunch of different variations variations on how you would do this line, but let me go ahead and show you what I've been doing with the 2-card combo. So again, for combo number 2, we're going to showcase the power of Nightmare Throne, but in addition, you're also going to need to either open the Dark Beckoning Beast or a copy of the Lotus. But of course, starting things off, we'll activate the field spell to add whichever one we don't have in hand, and then afterwards we can normal summon the Dark Beckoning Beast and use its effect to search. Here we can grab the gates, and then we activate the gates to add another copy of itself from deck to hand. And here's where some players will extra normal summon the Dark Beckoning Beast and use the 2 level 2s to go into the Dijin Buster. This is pretty cool because it can stop stuff like, I guess, Ash Blossom, as well as the Nibiru. But the problem I have with this is now you specifically have to open the Dark Beckoning Beast, because in this case, if you do this line, now what you'll have to do is activate the throne and destroy the Lotus from deck, and then you can now use the gates, discarding a card to bring Lotus back to the field. This is really cool and a good way to get this engine going, but the thing I dislike most about this combo is it uses the gates effect to reborn early, and I do like this as kind of an insurance policy if things go wrong. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Now you can just tribute this off and basically do a line similar to what I did in the last combo. But again, with this combo, if you open the Lotus with the field spell, then it's a little awkward. So let's rewind a little bit. We have the Beckoning Beast with the gates, but rather than extra normal summoning the beast, we're just going to extra normal summon the Lotus. Now we can use its effect just like last time, and we can summon from the deck. Spirit of Yubel hits the field, and just like last time, we can set the pain and then activate it right away, destroying Yubel to search. Here we can add the Grave Squirmer, and then just like last time, Spirit will activate Chainlink 1 and Throne as Chainlink 2. We'll add then summon Incarnate, and then Spirit of the Yubel will bring out the original Yubel. So as of right now, we can actually get hit with Nibiru, but we really don't care. If we lost our whole field here and got a token, now we can use opening to bring back any of our monsters with 0 attack and defense. Then we'll control a Fiend, so the Squirmer can hit the field. That's 3 bodies to play with, plus the Squirmer can bring another one back from the grave to play with as well. So you can see how much extension you still have, even with Nibiru threatening on the field. So before we commit all these extenders to the field, we're actually going to do a little link climb. Yama will hit the field, and now we can do some Unchained stuff, and Sharvara will get added to hand. Here we'll use the Sharvara and destroy this Yubel, and Yubel's effect will activate to bring back the Incarnate. Right now we're locked into Fiend, so we're just going to link these 2 off and go into our Soul of Rage. Here the Sharvara will activate. We'll grab the trap and set it face down, and this is really nice because now we can just take these 2 bodies, link them off, and go into our Appaloosa. Appaloosa will have 2 negates, and now for sure we're insulated against Nibiru. Now we can use this opening of the Spirit Gates. We can pitch this extra Beckoning Beast from our hand. Spirit of Yubel will hit the field, and now that we control a Fiend, Squirmer can hit the field, and we're actually going to use the effect to destroy this Yubel. Reason being is obviously we're going to get the Spirit of Yubel effect, but this will allow us to activate the Yama Engrave as well. So Spirit of Yubel will come back from the Yama, and the second copy of Yubel will come out of the deck. So now after that, we can do a little bit more link summoning. We're going to go ahead and take this Yubel and the Grave Squirmer. Muckraker will hit the field, and now we have the Grave Squirmer effect in the grave that we can now banish to bring back any of our monsters. Now, just like last time, we have 2 level 10s. We can go ahead and make our amazing new Omni Negate, and just like the last combo, we can now discard a card for the Muckraker and bring Yubel back from the graveyard. In the end phase, the Lotus comes back, and then the Yubel can just tribute off the Muckraker, and there you have it. You have basically everything from the last combo, but you also have an Appaloosa, and you played around Nib in the process. You'll have 2 monster negates with Appaloosa. You can change a monster effect to destroy Yubel on the field. You'll have the Omni Negate with Varudris, plus, at any time, if you desperately need so, you can use the Chamber, bring back that Soul of Rage, use the Soul of Rage in your opponent's monster, SP Little Knight their monster, and then, of course, SP Knight another one of their monsters. And again, this opening of the Spirit Gates is a monster reborn every turn by discarding a card. You have all the follow-up in the world, and you've built one of the craziest boards. Plus, this card is going to destroy a bunch on your turn as well. I'm telling you, this deck is so much fun to play. So that's going to wrap things up for today's video. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. I really mean it. This deck is so much fun to play, and the best part is it is super flexible, whether it's in the deck building or in the combo lines you want to take. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and here's hoping to see you on the next one. Peace.